Hello my friends, and welcome back to another exciting adventure here on Ladder Time. Before I get into today's deck, I just want to remind you guys, I now have a Twitter page. So I would appreciate it if you guys give me a follow. That way if I want to make an important announcement, I'll probably use Twitter to do that. But mostly, I just want another platform to entertain you guys on. I'll keep it light, I'll keep it fun, I promise. So give me a follow on Twitter, I'd love to hear from you guys, I'd appreciate it. Today I'm going to be showing you an archetype we've played on this channel before. This is going to be another Reanimator deck. This is going to be blue-green combo Reanimator. Previously on Ladder Time in Season 1, I did a red-green version of Reanimator. And then in between seasons, I did Arrowbird's take on Reanimator, which was also red-green, but it played Lord Valentine, played a bunch of vampires, and ended up being pretty sweet, actually. This is more of a combo heavy type deck, hence why it's called Combo Reanimator. It's going to work basically the same way as all the other Reanimator decks do. We have as our path the Disc of Circadia. We're going to flip between the two abilities, and we're going to use this to throw a large beastie into our boneyard. And then we're going to bring it right back using this gem right here. This is the Hopeless Necromantic. We'll play this out, crash into opponent's minion, bring out large beastie onto the board. So what blue brings to the table is a couple of tools they can use to try and make that big combo, try to make that knockout punch early. For example, we have Jaunt. We can use this to move our minions around the board, out of the way of our opponent's minions. We have 2 copies of Berserker Sickness, give a minion Frenzy, and sacrifice it at the end of the turn. Sacrificing it may seem like a big thing, but if we play something like a Living Mountain, which is a 12/12 with Overrun, we may not need another turn. So you're looking to knock him out right away with Berserker Sickness. Then we have 3 copies of Frecky Sidecar. This is kind of our big wombo combo in this deck. This works kind of the same way that the Dashing Ringmaster did in the red-green version. Turn 3, we're going to play our Hopeless Necromantic. Turn 4, put the sidecar next to it, crash into the opponent's minion, big beastie on the board. Big beastie can attack right away because of sidecar, so hopefully we'll just get a huge blow in on turn 4. Then we also have 2 copies of Allfather's Horn. This is a good closer in the Valkyrie deck, and it's the same here. It's another excellent closer to use in here. We'll give all our minions a standard action, aka another attack, and then refresh our mana and gems, so we can still play stuff out even after we play this. Very powerful card, great finisher. And then for green, nothing too surprising. I mean, we have our big beasties that you expect at the top. We have an Indrik Beast, we have Iku Turso, we have a Short Stag. Then when we have a couple controlling type spells, we have the Traitorous Murmur, we have also a copy of Detained. It's important to note that this deck is not as control heavy as, say, the purple-green. We don't really have much of a control plan to lean on like we do with the purple-green deck. We do want to try to get to our big minions as fast as possible because that's how we're going to beat the opponent. It's basically more of a stompy plan than a control plan. So, of course, we have 3 copies of the Grinning Kolobok. Very important to try and ramp if we can. And also, we do have 2 copies of the Born Again. Born Again's good against aggro decks, and it's also good card to throw into our boneyard when we go from night to day with our path, because it's going to come right back to our hand, so it's as if we discard nothing at all. And then to help against aggro decks, we have 1 copy of Baba Yaga's Den, and a couple copies of Gallows Boy as well. Also, one addition to green in here is Marching Orders. This is actually really, really nice to have when you're playing Hopeless Necromantic. Sometimes your opponents will try to avoid you, but you can use this to kind of manipulate the board. You can move your Necromantic around, you can move their minions around, that way you have something to crash into. Or when you have your big beastie on the board, you can just slide your opponent's minions out of the way and just get in for even more damage. And some of the big beasties that blue adds to this, we have a couple Black and Jotun, we have Magnus Thorson, we have 2 Volcanic Rizzy, which are really nice because they also deal damage when they come into play. So we'll be able to deal 4 damage to our opponent regardless with this. And of course, the aforementioned Living Mountain. We also have 2 copies of Thunderclap, nice little one-sided sweeper, and a couple Einhard Thanes to deal with aggro decks and smaller minions. And also important to note, we also get access to the Junkyard Valhalla. If we don't get our Reanimator plan online, this is a good backup because this can also bring minions from the bottom of our boneyard onto the battlefield. So if we don't get a Hopeless Necromantic, or if we get hit with something like Seal of Exile on them, this is a great plan B. This is another way to just continually bring stuff back onto the board. So that's what the deck looks like altogether. Nothing too surprising, nothing too different, especially with green. But this is a lot of fun to play. This has actually been my main ladder deck. I've had a lot of success with this, climbing up the ladder. Against the different archetypes, I would say it's good against aggro, good against control. Sometimes some of the grindy mid-range decks this can struggle a little bit, especially if we're playing against orange. Orange in general is just really good against Reanimator because of cards like Seal of Exile or a Ghoul, which can banish stuff out of the boneyard. But I will say this as well, regardless of what we're playing, if we're able to get out a big combo on turn 4 or turn 5 or very early on, chances are we're going to win the game. This deck can be hard to deal with if the opponent doesn't have an immediate answer for it. So overall, I think this is a very good deck to play on the ladder. It has a lot of good matchups. Red-orange is a little bit hairy for this, and against any orange deck in general, but I don't think there's any matchup that I would say is particularly really bad for it. Certainly, I've been able to beat red-orange mid-range with this, so overall, a lot of fun. I give this one a thumbs up. So this is my build for it. There are other variations out there, a little bit changes here and there. But, all right, I'm done talking about this deck. I just am really excited to show this to you guys because I just love playing Reanimator. It's a lot of fun. So let's dive into a couple of games, see what this deck can do. So our opponent in Game 1 is going to be Lucifer Val 666, playing blue, purple, rainbow midrange. And if you look at our opening hand, we actually have the Wombo combo right in hand. We have the Hopeless Necromantic, we have the Iku Turso as the minion we're going to throw in the boneyard. We have not one but two Frecky sidecars. We have another 2 green cards we can burn, so we're guaranteed to play Hopeless Necromantic on turn 3. So this could be the Reanimator's dream, but let's see what happens. Now on turn 1 here, our opponent is going to burn a card, then they're going to play a Leprechaun's Coin, but then they're going to use it to activate their power. Not really the best use of coin. When you're on the draw, you want to be able to catch up with what your opponent's doing, or you want to be able to get a little bit ahead. So generally it's better to play a minion or something that's going to help you out on board. And right there I just played our power, put Iku Turso into the boneyard. That's an Einhard Thane. And because our path is set on day, the Hopeless Necromantic is going to be able to crash into it, and they'll be able to take each other out. But we also have the Volcanic Rizzy. That's an easy burn next turn. We can burn that, play out Frecky Sidecar next to the Hopeless Necromantic, so everything's coming up Millhouse. Alright, Rizzy burn, Frecky Sidecar, and let's Wombo combo away. So we just got in for a whole bunch of damage on turn 3 there. So our opponent needs to have a response. I should say that was turn 4. Turn 3 is when we played the Hopeless Necromantic. Alright, Volclove Heavy, another minion with overrun, so we're going to get in for another 14 on the opponent. Our opponent is down to 1, they need a response. And they don't have enough to really stop us, so the opponent's just going to pack it in. And that was indeed the Reanimator's dream. That was absolutely perfect. We got our Hopeless Necromantic on turn 3, the big mini on turn 4, played Frecky's sidecar next to it, so we gave it rush, and we just threw way too much at the opponent way too fast, and there wasn't much they could do, so the opponent had to call it quits early. And that was the perfect storm. That was the ideal scenario for this deck. But of course, not everything is going to go perfect. So let's check out another couple of games and see what else this deck can do. Okay, in game number 2, our opponent is Sir Beats-a-Lot, cousin of Sir Mix-a-Lot, I assume. And they're playing a purple-green Reanimator deck, so it's going to be a battle of the Reanimators. Now both of our decks are trying to do similar things, but if you notice, the power they're using is Foresight. There's some debate among Reanimator decks as to which is the better power to use. Personally, I think Smite is best. It helps you win the game. Foresight is a little bit redundant. You're able to look at the top 2 cards of your deck when you flip your disc from day into night anyway. So overall, I think Smite is the better power to have, but both of them have their uses. So at this point, we've both thrown our minions into the boneyard. Our opponent put Tarragon on the bottom. I put Volclav Heavy. Neither are the biggest minion in the deck, but if we can get those out by turn 4, we'll be a little bit ahead of the curve. Okay, that's a Thunderclap. We could take out both their minions, but of course we don't want to do that. We'd rather have something to crash into. So there's a Hopeless Necromantic. I want to attack into the Sword Saint if I can. Opponent's going to slide over with the Kolobok, crash into the Gallows Boy, ramp their mana. So they have more mana than we do, but we just drew Frecky Sidecars, so we've got the Wombo combo on the battlefield. Our opponent just drew their Hopeless Necromantic, so that's going to be able to get the Tarragon into play next turn. Because I don't think there's any way I can get around it. But that's a Traitorous Murmur. That could be potentially useful. I'm going to detain the Hopeless Necromantic, save some damage from Volclav Heavy. And that'll also put Deported online for next turn, so if I want to, I can bounce the Tarragon, which has Ephemeral, so it will be destroyed. There's a Boneyard Abomination, so I have a choice of what I want to steal. And as soon as the opponent played the sword on the Tarragon, I knew what I wanted. So I'm just going to slide over with everything. That way the Volclav's out of the way. The Frecky Sidecar can give it Rush. So get it for 6 and gain 6. They're going to play Metamorphosis, so that'll strip it of its abilities. Battle Chef is a 2/2 blocker. They're going to put the Adamant Pearl in the Walk Shield. The Boneyard Abomination, buff it up a bit. But Allfather's Horn is going to seal the deal. I can play the Horn, give all my minions currently on the battlefield an extra attack, then play out the Short Stag next to the Frecky Sidecar, so that'll take out the Abomination, and just get in for a whole bunch here, and finish off the opponent. So that was a good demonstration of some of the advantages of the blue-green Reanimator as opposed to some of the other ones. We were able to get a couple of combos, make those big splashy plays. First by playing the Frecky Sidecar next to the Volclav Heavy to get in for some damage more quickly. And then when we need to close out the game, we had the Allfather's Horn to be able to make multiple attacks and play a Short Stag on the same turn. So other decks, Reanimator decks are trying to do similar things, but this deck has the ability to make those big splashy plays because there's combos littered throughout the deck, so that was a good win for us. Let's see what else this deck can do. Alrighty, our third and final opponent is going to be J-Devil playing green-yellow control. Let's see how this plays out. Now the problem with this opening hand is there's no Hopeless Necromantic in it, so I'm hoping to draw into one. But we are going second, so we get to activate our power for the first time for free. So right here on turn 1, I'll be able to put the Intric Beast into the Boneyard and play out Kolobok. So this deck actually likes to go second at certain times. So gonna hop over, get our opponent for 1. Let's spin the disc. We don't get the Hopeless Necromantic, but Volclav Heavy is not a bad pickup either. Gives me something to work towards. Plague Maiden, so that means our Gritting Kolobok is not long for this world. Might as well just crash it into the board again. Burn the other one I have in hand. And Baba Yaga's dead. Next turn I can spin the disc, activate Slayer, take out the Plague Maiden. At least that's the plan. But our opponent's going to play out Mesa Libre, so there goes that idea. A Living Mountain gets burned. Out comes the Volclav Heavy. Important to note that the Heavy does have Armor 1, so it's not affected by the Plague Maiden. Opponent's just going to hop over with the Plague Maiden and play out the Mesa Libre. Play Wake the Bones, bring back the first Mesa Libre, so Yeah, this is going to be one of those kinds of games. We're just going to get stunned left and right. Play out the second heavy. So we're able to get some good pressure here on the opponent. But of course, they have the first Mesa Libre, so it's going to stun one of our heavies. And they're going to raid the tombs. Draw a couple of cards. They play out Grinning Kolobok of their own, so they're able to ramp up their mana now. Get in for 5. Burn the Detain to play Short Stag. I'm going to use the Short Stag, bring back Indrik Beast. So Indrik Beast is going to get onto the battlefield the old-fashioned way. We're just going to spend mana for it. But the opponent puts Trader's Murmur on the Short Stag. So that's going to be problematic. Opponent gets a little cheeky, playing the Clay Effigy on our side. And out comes the Indrik Beast. It's not going to be able to take out the Short Stag, but I don't want to take a big hit from it. Alright, Wonder Drug, so our opponent's going to go back up to 15 life, draw 2 cards, and sure enough, they drew another Mesa Libre. So, Short Stag does take out the Indrik Beast. They play out an Enchant Eater. And Detained is the absolute best draw in this deck. I can set Enchant Eater's power to 0. I can use the Deporter, put Short Stag back into our hand. I can zap our opponent, spin the disc. That'll activate the Slayer, which gives enough power to the Heavy to take out the Enchant Eater. And the Heavy itself takes no damage because we detained that Enchant Eater. So, yeah, that was a great little turn for us. But here comes Iku Turso. Here comes another Mesa Libre, because why not? Goes up the opponent. There's our Hopeless Necromantic. A bit late, but better than nothing. So our opponent's going to slide over the Plague Maiden, play out the Sapo. Might have been worth it just to sacrifice the Plague Maiden to the Sapo also. Give it a little more power and health. Plague Maidens isn't able to do much since our opponent's life total is pretty low. Going to play a Short Stag in between the Sapo and the Iku Turso. Soak up some damage. But opponent's going to slide over with both. Play up in many falls. And they do not attack with the Iku Turso. He's really trying to make sure that it lives. So we'll play out the Hopeless Necromantic. At least if something attacks into it, it'll get replaced by something in the Boneyard. And at this point, the bottom of our Boneyard is Grinning Kolobok and Baba Yaga's Den. So nothing too exciting. But Volcanic Grizzly's a good pickup here. We're going to spin the disc, zap our opponent. Berserker Sickness can go in the Boneyard. We don't really have anywhere to attack with it. Rizzy comes on the battlefield, does 4. So our opponent is down to 2. Short Stag, that's going to give the opponent 2 health. They're going to bring Sapo back out of the Boneyard. So our opponent's still kind of in control, but Thunderclap, that is a draw that lets us win the game. We can do to the opponent, that takes out the maze, so we can attack with the Kolopok, spin the disc, zap our opponent for that last bit of damage. So, we faced 3 different opponents, and had 3 different kinds of wins with the deck. The first game, we just had the God Hand. We had all the pieces in place. We were just able to get in very quickly and run over our opponent. Second game, we need to make a couple of splashy plays. We had the Wombo Combo with the Frecky Sidecar in the Big Minion, which was the Heavy. That did some damage, but we also need the Allfather's Horn to be able to make multiple attacks, replenish our mana, play Short Stag, all that good stuff. So the splashy plays won us the second game. And the third game was just more of a grinder. We never got our Reanimator plan online. The Hopeless Necromantic didn't appear till late in the game, but we were able to grind it out against their big minions. And by carefully playing our disc, we were able to take out things like Enchant Eater and Sapo by turning the Slayer on and then spinning the disc to draw cards. So we were also able to get in that last point of damage with our power. So hopefully I've made my case for Smite being the better power to use in a Reanimator style deck. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. So blue-green Reanimator, very good on the ladder, has a lot of good matchups. And really, if you're able to get your combo out down early, you have a good chance of winning any type of matchup. So Reanimator is a ton of fun. It's a little bit trickier than some of the others to play. Disc of Circadia, it's a little bit trickier path to use, but in the end, it can give you big benefits. So give Blue-Green Reanimator a try. I think you'll enjoy it a lot. That's going to be it for me today. Thank you for joining me once again. I will be back next week. Definitely going to be a Casual Tuesday and another ladder time on Thursday. Don't know exactly what I'm doing yet, but we'll see what comes up. And as always, I appreciate it if you hit like and subscribe. Let me know, what do you think of Reanimator? Do you enjoy playing it? Which Reanimator deck do you enjoy more? Do you like the blue-green? Do you like red-green? Do you like purple-green? You can leave a comment below. And that is all for me today, so I will see you guys next time.